Hey guys, happy Saturday. Thank you for joining for another video here at All I See Is W, where we talk about stocks, Bitcoin, and finance. In today's video, we have a lot to talk about. I'll be covering my latest updates with Bitcoin using technical and fundamental analysis. We'll also be covering strategy, MSTR, what my price predictions are, along with the latest updates with the company. We'll also be covering the big three miners, when it comes to MARA, Riot, and CleanSpark, when we think about the biggest hodl with Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Now, if you're new to this channel, first off, I would really appreciate you hitting the like, subscribing for more related content. Let's get started, guys. We're looking at the technicals of Bitcoin. Obviously, what we saw last week was Bitcoin dropping below $80,000. In fact, it dropped to that support you see here down to the 77,000. There's a lot of fear, uncertainty in the stock market right now, especially with all of the news around reciprocal tariffs. Although tariffs are actually a good thing, it's really based on the results that we see with combating inflation, improvement in economic data when it comes to job reports and CPI. But all of that right now, we don't have any of that data, and investors are reacting to these type of news here. But I think overall, from a large scale perspective, I think that this is a good sign here in that any type of updates that we get from the government, it causes pullbacks. I think that when there's fear, uncertainty, there's opportunity for a bullish signal to come here, especially looking at Bitcoin heavily correlated with the stock market. There's been just so much ups and downs. In fact, in February, it was mainly all down here. And as you can see with Bitcoin price reaching down below, the threshold with the RSI, I think this is a great opportunity to dollar cost average down, buying Bitcoin below 80,000 long-term scale, even though we see a retracement. In fact, who knows? May very well see Bitcoin trace down to even in the sub $70,000 range, in the $60,000 range. But all of this here, I think, is a healthy signal with volatility with Bitcoin because I think that we're not out of the woods yet when it comes to Bitcoin bull cycle. Here we're looking at the Bitcoin M2 correlation here. And the key thing with just looking at M2 is seeing the correlation between M2 global supply and Bitcoin price. And Bitcoin price tends to lag behind M2 global supply when it comes to the global liquidity around all of the top 21 central banks. But there's a key indicator here that we're seeing. You see the blue line here just going up here in the recent month of February. And Bitcoin is expected to correlate with M2 global supply. So when the blue line goes up at 1.8 weeks out, Bitcoin price will go up as well, which is why I'm very bullish on Bitcoin to have a V shape, given the fact that M2 and Bitcoin is heavily correlated. And with Bitcoin, with the historical runs that we've seen with the last bull cycles, we tend to get 3 years of upside, 1 year of bearish cycles. So going based on the historical data points, we're expected to see 2025 to have a positive upside as well before we have an end to the Bitcoin bull cycle. We're looking at here just the top assets by market cap. Gold is the number one here at $19 trillion, followed by Apple, Nvidia. You have the Mag 7s here, right? But, you see Bitcoin here creeping up. They're ranked number nine right now at 1.7 trillion. In fact, they got over $2 trillion. It's just with the recent retracement that we've seen with the technicals of Bitcoin. It's been pushing back here, but it actually got up to like, top five and top six at one point. So I think eventually Bitcoin is just going to be right behind gold. And at one point, it's just going to be number one as the top asset by market cap over time. Here we're looking at the Bitcoin stock to flow model. This is a good indicator to give us a perspective on where we are currently. And we tend to see, Bitcoin, especially when there's upside with post-halving events, Bitcoin tends to have that yellow neon green, indicating that the RSI is at that plus 80. I'm forecasting that somewhere around end of Q3, Q4, we're expected to see the 80 RSI, with the stock to flow model in addition to relative strength index, especially with Bitcoin having a top off. I'm thinking somewhere around the 180 to $200,000. We may very well see that. Who knows? We may not see that, but I think that just based on the historical trends, that's what we're expected to see, especially with the Bitcoin bull run here. As you can see, just with the entire United States, orange is really the new black right now, although we haven't really heard much about a state getting full-on approval to buy up Bitcoin from a strategic Bitcoin reserve perspective. But I think key thing here is we have a number of states here. It's a state race right now, just to get approval for a state to buy up Bitcoin. But one of the good things here is we see Texas catching up right here. Big state like Texas, we have a lot of AI data center initiatives going on in Texas and also a lot of Bitcoin miners in Texas as well. So any approval with strategic Bitcoin reserve, whether it's in Utah, Arizona, I think there's going to be that kick in full throttle gear with global game theory kicking in here. What we also do see from a contrarian perspective is just, a couple states where, we got the denial of getting a strategic Bitcoin reserve. But I think that with all of these data points across so many states, I think there's a high degree of a state getting approved. Now, the question is when. That's the magic 8 ball, right? And I think given the fact that we haven't heard much about implementation of strategic Bitcoin reserve. That's why there's uncertainty around the U.S. sovereign wealth fund, SBR, coming to fruition. But at one point, I'm thinking that all of this news is really going to come to fruition. One thing to keep in mind is that also Trump is going to hold a crypto discussion with the big time US players like all the miners along with other companies, come the first week of March at the White House. So I think all of that's going to drive, great game planning on how these North American companies can benefit while working with the government here. We look at strategy. I mean, even though, as you can see with the recent 3 month performance minus 34%. We've been seeing so much volatility, especially with MSTR. Bitcoin price, you know, current state, at 86,000. Big time hodl here of 499,000. It'll be interesting to see whether strategy will announce some Monday update where they buy Bitcoin at this price range and then just reach that milestone of getting over 500,000. That's going to be interesting here. But just comparing MSTR versus the Mag 7 here, big time dominance here, even though the year 2025 we've been seeing some volatility. However, from a long-term perspective, I think MSTR, their business model, they're really dematerializing a lot of other uh, companies out there because now they have a hodl of Bitcoin. So eventually, I think digital commerce is going to be all scaled around MSTR with what they've done, being like a Bitcoin bank here. Let's take a look at this posting from Adam Livingston here. Trump's tariffs and the dollar flood. Why Bitcoin and MSTR will crush expectations. Trump slaps tariffs on China and Canada. Market panics. Headlines scream global liquidity crunch. But here's what the 99 IQ crowd won't tell you. Tariffs are just a tax on imports, meaning the higher cost gets passed to consumers. Inflation ticks up, the Fed reacts too late, and suddenly they're forced to inject liquidity to keep the system from seizing up. Here's how it'll impact Bitcoin and MSTR. Tariffs strengthen dollar dominance. More global trade must settle in USD to absorb higher costs. This boosts demand for dollars, forcing emerging markets to scramble for liquidity. Higher prices equals more stimulus. As inflation rises, economic growth slows. The Fed will have no choice but to pump liquidity into the system to prevent a recession. Watch M2 start climbing again. Risk assets explode. When liquidity floods the system, it doesn't go to Main Street. It flows into assets with the highest upside. Stocks, Bitcoin, especially strategy, benefit massively. This is exactly why Bitcoin and MSTR are going to obliterate expectations over the next 4 years. The fiat system is a reflexive game of liquidity injections. Tariffs will be the catalyst, but Bitcoin is the only escape route. Don't fight the inevitable. Get long Bitcoin and MSTR. Big bullish comment here. Very compelling comment. Let's take a look at this posting here from Crypto Vici. Mara, what if Bitcoin closes March above 125,000? Here's the math. Net profit 1.6 billion in 1 quarter at PE 40, share price $188. Current share price reflects PE 11 for context. Palantir trades at PE 462 on 79 million profit. What would market be willing to pay for $1.6 billion in a single quarter? So you do the math here, $188. With the 2024 milestone accomplishments here in April, Riot energized 400 megawatt substation and began self-mining operations at the Corsicana facility. They successfully ramped up to 14.1 exahash in deployed hash rate by December 2024. Riot, they paused the sale of Bitcoin earned from self-mining operations beginning January 2024. It led to 4,576 self-mined Bitcoin being added to Riot's balance sheet. They achieved a 39% Bitcoin yield in 2024. Now, we heard about the 594 million convertible senior notes offering with 0% interest until the future. Riot deployed net proceeds of that to buy up 5,784 Bitcoin. Now, we also heard about Riot's acquisition of block mining for 92 million consideration at closing. They added 60 megawatts of operational capacity and a pipeline to build a total of 305 megawatts in Kentucky. So I think with this year alone, the increase in the hash rate is going to come to, the new site in Kentucky. Also, Riot acquired E4A Solutions, a leading electronic engineering services based out in Texas, and this is really going to help the company scale up its strategic operations now that they have, a vendor that can really add value to its Bitcoin capacity when it comes to mining, as well as HPC AI, which we've heard a lot about with the Riot's earnings report. So you see this lovely photo of Rockdale, Texas here with Bitcoin mining. But overall, just some key takeaways here, just with the revenue that they were able to bring in, 376 million, 34% increase from 2023. So definitely big improvement. Their earnings per share, they outperformed their expected results for earnings per share. So really good numbers when it comes to Riot scaling up its operational efficiencies. And I think all of that is just attributed to the laser sharp focus to get Corsicana facility up and running with, 400 megawatt capacity. But one of the interesting things is, what's going to happen next with HPC AI. So one of the key things to keep in mind is that when it comes to, you think about Stargate, the recent project in the United States. Stargate is a $500 billion contract with SoftBank, Oracle, OpenAI, and all of that. So that's going to be based out in Texas. And you look here, Riot, they're based out in Texas as well. They also have like 600 megawatt capacity that hasn't been fully utilized yet. So when you think about, investors who are involved in the Stargate project, for artificial intelligence, they're looking for facilities that already have the capacity with wattage ability to start up a project because it takes many years not only to buy up real estate, but to also set up the infrastructure for energy. But you look at Riot's facility, they already have all of that in place, right? It'll just be a big time deal, and then they can just get things running up, quickly here. So I think with HPC AI, Riot's, share price is eventually going to start scaling up here when you look about the potential, just with, Microsoft, Meta, Google, all of these companies, including, just with, what Tesla is doing, with Grok. I think all of this is, the main focus is to really, scale up HPC AI, and Riot is well positioned for hyperscalers, for, entertaining, big time clients here. So you see with Riot, I mean, they're very close to that main hub of Dallas, that's why I think, they're really a prime real estate, attractive time to market, and really just looking at, what's going to be the best opportunity when it comes to working with the client now that, Riot has, board of directors from like Hut 8, engineering experience from Meta coming on board, as well as, practical experience with real estate investments. Now they have people on their board of directors, with that experience to really position Riot to tap into the data centers from a real estate perspective, HPC AI, and just overall just getting Riot up to speed here. So very positive updates from the Riot earnings report here. And just between Rockdale and Corsicana facility, that's a combined 1.7 gigawatts of power available to be assessed through 2026. So Mara had an exceptional year when it comes to their earnings report. I mean, they grew their hash rate by 115%, going up to 53.2 exahash compared to like the prior year at 24 exahash. They also got their fleet efficiency down below 20, now at 19.2. They have facilities all around the world. They continue to mine Bitcoin, they continue to buy Bitcoin. Right now, they're right behind MSTR when it comes to their HODL here. But eventually they're going to get at around 50,000 Bitcoin. Of course, not even close to the number of MSTR, but when you look at global companies, MARA will be like, second when it comes to a Bitcoin bank. But you see here, Bitcoin blocks produced keeps going up here. That's attributed to, the rise in the hash rate. You know, HODL just continues to increase, as you can see here. But just based on the results that MARA was able to provide, they had a solid Q4 earnings report. You see Q4 here, $214 million here. Uh, that's definitely some huge upside. You also see here a reverse pattern of what we saw, in Q4 when we compare that to Q2, Q3, where now we're seeing net income here, $528 million net income. So definitely some solid updates here, as well as just improvement in cost to mine as well. Fleet efficiency improves. So not only is their hash rate, numbers number one right now, but they're, getting very competitive when it comes to their cost to mine. So definitely some great potential with Mara here, and you see, acquiring multiple sites around the different territories here. So Riot, very similar in Texas and in Kentucky here. You see Mara around the same trajectory here at multiple location sites here. But I think overall, just with this updates here from a technical perspective, I do think that Mara has huge upside here as we look at the technicals here, just looking at it from a 3 month perspective. I mean, Mara dropped by 51%. I think with the recent fundamental updates, we have huge potential upside here. CleanSpark down 44% in the last 3 months. MSTR dropped significantly as well, 37%. Riot here, 28%. So these four stocks have been beat down so much in the last 3 months. I think that what goes down very quickly like this, there's huge opportunity for a run up here, especially with RSI being, at like, 13 here. Definitely, I don't think that's going to remain. We're going to see some upside as we, head into the month of March. But when we scale out here, just 1 month, we see the same numbers here, but just from a year-to-date perspective, you see MARA down 19%, CleanSpark 15%, MSTR 14%, Riot, ahead right now. But you zoom out, obviously MSTR is up because that's attributed to their 2024 performance, getting up to 800% performance, ended the year 2024 400%, but just with the year perspective, they're still up 168%. But CleanSpark from a 1 year perspective, down 55%, similar to MARA, 55%, Riot, 40%. But I think that as we head into, March onward, we're going to see some potential upside here just from technicals and fundamental updates. With that, I wanted to quickly play a video from Tom Lee here.
So the investors view this as a crisis when it's really a growth scare. So to me, I think there's a good chance we're making our lows for the first half, like this week. And
like down 5-6%, you mean?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing is I'm not that optimistic about the job picture for the near term. So maybe that's one last leg. But the reality is that a lot of bad news has gotten priced in. So Bitcoin is down. It's actually not a surprise to our clients because Mark Newton, our head of technical strategy, really pointed out the cycles in mid-January that he was targeting 62,000 for Bitcoin by the end of March. So we're actually on our way to 62. But that's not a bearish development. It's just a retracement. If someone is playing AI today, it's not a mistake to bet on the leading companies for now.
So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. We talked about Bitcoin price, we talked about strategy, as well as the big three Bitcoin miners. Now, if you enjoyed this video, first off, I would really appreciate your support with a like, subscribe. Let me know what you enjoyed about this video, what I can improve on, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, where you're watching from, and I will respond back.